Good morning, everyone, and I'd like to welcome you to this week's weekly Wednesday webinar. I'm Denise Broom in the Engineering CAD Systems office, and this week we are going to be covering cross-section reports with GEOPAK, and that's Chapter 10 in the Advanced Road Manual. And like I said, this week we're working on the cross-section reports. Let me scroll down just a tad here. You'll see that there's quite a few reports that GEOPAK provides for us to use, but there's not very many of them that we actually use in FDOT. Alright, and going from there, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to Microstation. Alright, so how do I get to these reports? I'm going to go to GEOPAK, because I'm in Power GEOPAK, but if you're in Microstation Suite, you'd go to Applications, GEOPAK, Road, Cross Sections, and Reports. You can also get to them. There's all of our reports. You can also get to them through Project Manager. And let me go down to open up Project Manager, and State Road 817 is our project that we're using. I'll say OK. I always forget. I always unzip and I forget to do this. Edit. Preferences. Go Preferences. Clear. Okay. Alright. From the Road Project dialog, I know it's in here, you can get to the reports with the reports and cross-section quantities. That will also take you to the same dialog. Alright. That being said, let's start looking at what's in this dialog. First off, I want to look at the preferences. If you go to User Preferences, and I open this up, what this brings up is a dialog where you can customize report headers. Some of the reports that when you run these tools, you're just looking for something that may not be in a text format. Some of these reports are in a text format, and if you want to put in extra information into the headers, project information or names, the date, any of this type of information, you can put this in here, and you can number the pages, but that's just extra information that will be used with any of the reports that's in here. Alright, and like I said, I'm not covering all of the tools that you see on this dialog box. That would take us probably way too long, but like I said, we don't use them all. First one that I want to look at is the clearing report, and I'm following all the different ones that we have in the manual. The clearing report, what it's used for is to take your cross sections, analyze them, and determine a area that we can use for our clearing and grubbing quantities. You set the dialog box up. Most of this is, pretty generic here. We said, the job number, the chain, and that's not the right job. Ooh, it got that out of the, I would have thought it pulled that out of Project Manager. It did not. So make sure you got the right job number. Select the chain, and once you've selected that, it's going to read, if you're in your cross-section file, it's going to read all the cross-sections that you have and get the begin and end station. You set up the existing ground line. It did get that out of Project Manager. Cancel that. And you set up the proposed finished grade. Actually, no, it didn't. It got it from a resource. You can display and undisplay the different once you've selected them. I use that a lot whenever I'm using these type dialogues in order to set different features, simply because it makes it easier to make sure that I have selected all of the levels that I need in order to select everything and run the tools that whichever one I may be in. So it does have that option. The clearing distance, this is telling it the distance to go out from the edge of pavement, and it is gathering that. And if anybody out there, this is one tool I don't think I've ever used. I've always just grabbed it out of, you know, grab something out of plan view, but you can use this. I'm pretty sure it uses the edge of the shapes, because this tool has been around for a long time, and it doesn't give you an option to tell it a specific level to start. So that needs to be kind of taken in mind if you ever use this tool. And it goes out, there's a picture on page 10-3. Let me go to it really quick. It might help. Where'd it go? 1, 2, 3, right here. So basically it's going out from the edge of your, you've got the proposed ground, you've got the ground, and basically it's coming out here and it's going out a certain distance and determining that area, and it finds, you know, the slopes. It knows if you're in cut or fill, and I can add additional distance out there to depending upon what may be going out. I can add an additional clearing or fill. I have a minimum clearing width that I can set, and it goes in and it figures out what that distance is, and it gives you some more information in here. And one thing that I do want to make mention of is that once it determines how far out it needs to go for the clearing with the proposed elements, then it goes and it will use whichever is the greatest distance, whether it's the minimum distance that I tell it in the dialogue, or if it uses, if this goes out beyond that minimum distance, it will calculate that area all the way out to the edge of the proposed. What else do I have? Alright. Like I said, honestly, I don't know that there's a whole lot of people that use this tool, but it is something that could be applicable to our projects here in Florida. And it is available for your use. If you go through and you do use this tool and you need some additional help, and kind of with all of these tools, if you need additional help, feel free to call our office and we'll definitely help you. Okay, another tool that we have, I'm kind of hitting highlights, is this DTM Proposed 3D. And basically what this does is you tell it the existing ground and you give it the proposed finished grade, and it will create a DAT file that you can then use to generate a proposed 10 from it. I mean, pretty simple, cut and dry, but that's what this tool is used for. Alright, that one's short and sweet. I like that. Okay. The next report, and we have an exercise. I'm going to go through all of these and then I'm going to hit the exercise, so I'm not going to hit this one too much right now. The next report, this one is probably the most commonly used. It is our multi-line report, and this one is used to generate what we call a gen file, and that gen file is used by another program within that construction uses. And basically construction uses that program. It's an old program, but they use that program in order to regenerate our cross sections and do different things with that. So we'll go through this in more detail when I get to the exercise, but basically you're just telling it where the surfaces are, and you set the dialog up, and it will generate a text file that can then, in the right format, that can then be put into that other report for construction. Okay, profile grade report. Let's close that one for now. Profile grade. This one's actually a pretty neat report, and you don't actually have to generate report, but the most useful part to this particular report that I find anyway is I set this up just like all the rest of the dialogues, but then when I get down here to my report options, I have 3 different options: criteria elements, search text, and offset. The criteria elements will go in and it will search through my proposed elements, and it will determine the low point for the surfaces that I tell it on both the right and the left side of my sections. The offset will create a profile for me at any horizontal distance from my from a horizontal chain. And if you'll notice, as I go through here, my dialog changes. Okay, and you just set these up, and then it'll start looking. But the option that I find to be the most useful, although the offset could be useful as well, but is the search text option. And basically what I can do with this, and I've kind of set up some sections for us, not where I would like to with this data set because there's no ditches or anything, but I could go in and, like, say for a back of sidewalk, or if I want to grab where I generate a profile or a ditch chain along the bottom inside edge of a ditch, if I wanted to create a chain for a back of sidewalk, and grab that existing profile, or not the existing profile, but grab where my proposed profile is, I can use and set up this dialog, so it'll use the search text option, and then it will place I have to place the text. And a lot of our sections, if you've used our criteria, for example, and I'm just zooming in here just so that you can see, I have these turned off. Let me find the piece of text. Point labels. Okay, for every, that one was a bad one. We got all kinds of them. Here's a good one. For every feature point that the criteria draws for us, and the Quarter Modeler also has this set up, I am told, but for every one of these points, it has a name that we have gone in here and we've labeled it. And this is the curved flow line. And if it's the bottom, the top, it goes in and it knows if it's on the left or the right, and it will generate these points. And you can use these labels that we've given you within this dialog. And what it does is you tell it the existing ground and the proposed finished grade, and this works just like you saw with the earthwork, where everything has to be touching like it's supposed to. If it doesn't touch, then it gives us the error message and you have to figure them out. But once it does that, as it goes along, if it's following your proposed finished grade. and it's searching for this piece of text. And when it finds it, I can tell it to go in and store a profile or store a chain or both. If I tell it to store a chain, I've got to give it a beginning point number, and then it will store that directly into COGO for us. So I've got an example of that. Like I said, it's not necessarily what I would use this for, but I had several sections in a median, and I just put CP for crown point, and I labeled those, so we'll be able to run this tool as well at the end of our webinar this morning. Alright, so that's it in a nutshell for the profile grade report. I don't see any questions coming up so far. Alright, the next tool that we have documented is the seating report. Okay, the seating report gives us slope distances along the left and the right, and it goes through and you tell it what level that you want it to be looking at. So for us, it would be like the slopes underbar PX level, and I can then go in and it will calculate for me the area that I would need to seed. I can also, with this tool, I can break it up. If I turn on the subtotal, I can't say that word, subtotal split slope, tongue-tied this morning, and what it'll do is say, I know I've got the example that we have is 1 to 3. I can toggle this on, and anything that is greater than the 1 to 3, it'll put in one report, and anything that's less than 1 to 3, it would put in a different report. So that is an option that you can go in there if you find that useful. But anyway, you set this tool up, run it through your sections, it finds those slopes, looks at the maximum allowable slope if you toggle it on, and then it will go through and generate a area for you for seating. And you could use that for whatever you needed it to, but that is one option. Knowing what it does can help you determine, I mean, it wouldn't necessarily have to be used for quote-unquote a seating area. It would do that for any element that you tell it. I'm trying to think of another good example. But it'll gather that area for any element that's on a slope along your cross sections. Okay. And the last one that we have is the slope stake report. I'm not real sure why we have this in here. Basically, it's a report that'll generate offsets and elevations and super elevation information. It's a report that was developed for FHWA, and I'm trying to think of what we would use it for. I'm honestly not sure. But that is documented. It's another report. It's an option available to you if you're trying to gather that type of information out of your cross sections. And it's real simple. You just place it in there and go set it up. Okay. So basically that's the report that was determined to be the most useful for Florida. Some of these, like I said, we don't use at all. Any of these reports, if you want to know what do they do, you can go into the GEOPAK Road Help, I know that's that dreaded word, right? Nobody likes to see the help. Alright, but if I go in here and I go under command reference, I can go to cross sections and then go down to reports. Once I find them, reports. Okay, and I can look at all the different reports that are in here. And for one, it's like, you know, like the closure report. What does that do? And it provides information on intersection points between the proposed finished grade and the existing ground. So if that's something that maybe you may need and you want to automate the process of getting that information, there's a tool in here to use it. So this is an available resource that you guys do have, is the help files. I know I go to them a lot because sometimes it's a little cumbersome, but once you understand the report, you know, or the format of how this is in here, it's basically just like going up to GEOPAK Road or Applications Road and going through the dialogue, you know, or the menu. I can go through the same thing here, only I'm going through and I'm trying to find the information. The other thing that I can do is while I'm in a report, so let me open up this clearing report. So I'm in this report. If I hit F1, it will also bring up the information on that report. Do I have any questions so far? You guys are being really quiet today. Alright. Just wanted you to know that that was available. Alright. Now I want to get into, if you go to the back of the chapter, it's on page 1015. For anyone who wants to follow along with this exercise, I've already opened up the RDXS RDO1 file, and it got saved, or it should have been saved. When we ran our cross-section sheets last week, we did a save settings in the SHG model. So when you open this file up, it's going to be in the sheets model. So switch it to the cross-section model, RDXS RD model. And I've already gone into Project Manager and then hit the reports and cross-section quantities in order to bring up this dialog. I want the reports dialog. Once I've opened up the report, I want to open up the user preferences, and I'm checking the tolerance, and it's set to 0.1, and that's the only thing that he has us doing in this one. But like I said, I'm just going to toggle on the date in there. And you have different formats. We use month, day, year. And then I'm going to close this. Alright. And this exercise is the multi-line report. And let's see if I can get, I'm going to move this, I'm going to just move it off my screen. Get it out of the way. So basically what I'm trying to do in this exercise is to create a report or a text file that is going to be used by construction, that's going to define the surfaces in my cross sections. And just by the way, kind of out there, just wanted to kind of let you guys know, as far as our office is, the support with this multi-line report, you can call me, but I don't have as much experience as Shannon Miles in our office, and she is the one who supports the multi-line report as well as the construction software. So if you do run into this, probably the best person to contact is Shannon Miles for the multi-line report. Okay. I had a question, but I have to think about that one for a second. All right. I'm going to go ahead and go through this while I'm doing that. All right. So now that I have this open, I'm set. I put my job number. I've got my chain. I've got my cross-section stations have been filled out for me from the cross-sections in the file. The next thing I want to do is I want to set up the elements that I need. Okay, I'm going to click on level names and flip the page. And this is telling me that I want to grab, and you can type this in, you can use this dialog, or you could actually go in and use the match and then grab the ones that you need. For this, I'm just going to go ahead and just go through his list here. We've got curb and gutter. Where'd it go? I need CNG PX. I need the driveway. And basically what this is, it's from the edge of pavement out. We're creating a surface. Which I don't know. Driveway PX. Shoulder and unpaved shoulder. Nope, shoulder unpaved. Sidewalk and slopes. Sidewalk and slopes. Oops, too far. Alright, so once I've selected all of those, I'm going to tell it OK. They show up in my list. And I'm going to hit the red X. That basically saves that information for the time being. And I can display those if I needed to. I could place labels in here, and I don't see. Yep. I'm going to put in a T for top. And then I need to tell it that it's the top. So I can create a surface for the top, and I can create a surface for the bottom. And once I've defined this information, and we're putting this in as the primary surface, and you guys have to excuse me, I'm not the expert on running this tool. I probably know enough to be dangerous. Why did he... The exercise has us to put the output format as GEOPAK. I don't think that was right. Alright, so once I've set that in there, I want to add it to the list. And then I want to go through and I want to do the same thing, only this time I need the existing surface. So I'm going to come in here and change this. I'm going to reset it. And I'm going to hit a match. I want the existing ground line. And I'm going to exit that. So I've got that level in there. It's top and secondary. And then I'm going to add that to the list. And then I'm going to hit apply. And if I toggle on the pause on each cross section and I click apply, then it'll stop and we'll just run it through. Oops. I guess once you zoom in, it loses the highlight. Okay, so but it'll highlight, and if I tell it, where's that? You can see where it's highlighting it. And once it goes through the entire, I'm going to untoggle this. I want it to go through the entire sections. It generates a file for me. Come on. Alright. And I'm going to go to the working directory. If I go to standard, explore current working directory. Yeah, I created the right file. ACO.gen file. And program from a list. I'm just going to grab Notepad. And you can see as it went through, it generated all of the information. So basically it's giving you the station and then the offset, and it works from left to right. The offset with an elevation, offset, elevation, and you can see I found all of these for all the first cross section. So it puts it into this format that can be read by the other tools, and it'll go through all of the cross sections. And this is what you need to provide to construction. I do need to look into this more. I really think that I needed more levels. I may be wrong. When I set up the top line, this one, I don't know, something just doesn't feel quite right on that, but that's what's in our manual. Guys, please give me a call if you have questions on any of that. You can call me or you can call Shannon. All right. The next thing that I wanted, and that's what's provided in our manual. I want to go through now at this point, and I want to show you the other tool, the profile grade report. All right, so I pull up profile grade and it brings me this, and let's see, let me reset these. Go to station 111. 111 through the end of the project is all in curb and gutter section in the median. And what I've done is I've gone through each one of those, and it uses the origin of the piece of text that you place. So it doesn't matter if it's center or center top or however you place the text in here. So I've placed in a piece of text, and it's CP. And so you fill out the top of the dialogue, you give it the existing ground, exit that, and then I'm going to reset sure I have the right ones, and I'm going to hit display so we can see them. And I'm going to hit all of these across the top, because it's really all I need. And I want to make sure that it's finding all of those levels. And let's make sure we don't have anything else. Kind of scroll through some of these. There's not many. That's what I thought. We got driveway. Nope. That one. So my driveway will tie to ground. And we have sidewalk. So I need to grab the sidewalk level. Grab that level. So as I go through here, make sure I didn't miss anything else. No, that's good. Okay, so now that I have all the levels and it's highlighting everything for me, I'm going to hit on display. I'm going to exit that part of the dialog, and I've set the report options to search text. And down at the bottom of this at the bottom of the list box here, I've got some options to tell it the information about the text. So I'm going to tell it CP because that's the label that I put in there. And I have two options. I can either, if I, like say I were to create a chain or store profile, either one, I can use the station design element, and basically it uses, and this is wrong, I was using this tool the other day on a different project, and it's gathering a resource. I need to delete the resources to clear this out. But I can either use the design alignment, which would be our SR817 or BL817, excuse me, or I can come in here and tell it to station the text alignment. I'm going to use the station text alignment. When I do that, I get the option down here to store a chain. So I'm just going to call this chain crown, and I want it to develop for me and create a profile called crown. I'm going to open up Kogo to make sure I don't mess anything up. And within Kogo, I need to tell it a begin point number. And looks like I could use 300 quite easily. Okay, so when it goes to create the chain, it's going to start with the point number of 300, and it'll go through each of the sections, and it's going to find that piece of text, and then it will store a chain for me in Kogo, and it'll also store a profile. I need to add it to my list box, so I could actually put in, like, say if I had a ditch and I wanted to store in something from the top of the ditch, the bottom of the ditch, at the front, bottom of the ditch, back, and where it ties into ground. I could create multiple at one time by adding them into my list box. But the important thing to know here is that this text has to be unique. Okay? So if you've got the same thing going on the left and the right, like you want to back a sidewalk, and I've got one on the left and the right, I can tell it, you know, BSWL, BSWR, and then it'll give me 2. But I'd need to put these in here as 2 line items. Okay, and ASCII text file, which in this case really isn't all that important, but and once I have it put into my dialog, then I tell it to click apply. And before I do that, I'm going to change my stationing. I know it starts at station 111. That way it doesn't try to go through all the rest of those sections. And I click apply. Cancel that. I'm going to turn on redefine. Now click apply. I went through the process. Now if I come in here, I'm used to doing it this way. And I go in, I want to list some chains. You'll see that I now have the chain crown. The chain crown has been defined for me, or stored. I can also look in my profiles and see that I have a profile now called crown. Maybe some useful information that you can use. I know I get support. I actually get support calls on this tool versus the rest of them I don't. So I know this is something that is useful. I hope you did get something out of today's session, and I thank you for attending it, and you guys have a wonderful day and a wonderful week, and I will hopefully see you guys next week.